Here's everything you need to know about the Charlie Kirk assassination in 8 minutes. Charlie Kirk was assassinated at UVU campus during the American Comeback Tour, doing one of the debates he's very well known for. The official narrative, which nobody believes, is that a lone gunman later discovered to be Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old white man who's also gay and dating a furry who is transitioning, has a sporterized Mauser K98 chambered in .30-06 smuggled in his pants. What? When he arrives on campus, he then makes his way to his shooting position on the Losi Center building, where he takes the shot at Charlie Kirk from approximately 140 yards, but not before changing his clothes and assembling his rifle that he pulls out of his pants, striking Charlie Kirk in the neck. Only one shot was fired. The impact that we're all able to see looks unmistakably like an exit wound. However, we're told it's an entry wound, and we're told by the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital that he is the man of steel because the bullet did not even pass through. Yeah, you heard that right. .30-06 hit him in the neck and did not go through. What? Now, we've all seen that clip way too many times, so I'm not going to show it again. However, here is a ballistic dummy being shot at the same exact angle and distance as the alleged shooter with a .30-06. As you can see, the bullet easily clears the neck and also leaves a hole in the 2x4 behind it with plenty of energy left to go. To further demonstrate the power of .30-06, the testers then shot the same dummy in the head, and as you can see, the results are absolutely catastrophic. Charlie Kirk wasn't shot with a .30-06. To further illustrate how ludicrous the official narrative was, Special Operator Valhalla VFT shot actual steel plates from 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch, even 1/2 inch steel plates with .30-06. None of them stood a chance, and neither did Charlie Kirk's spine. And there are a ton of theories of what actually happened to Charlie Kirk, but we must be very careful because these are designed to muddy the waters and create confusion and sow division amongst the community looking for the truth. But I know a lot of you out there may have seen or even fallen for some of these, so we're going to go through and talk about the most popular ones, finishing off with the most likely scenario, the easiest to believe, and what the actual video evidence shows us. First off, there is proof of multiple drones in the airspace during Charlie Kirk's assassination. Do I believe Charlie Kirk was shot by a drone? No. Simply put, it is not a simple or easy shot to take, and it is highly unlikely a drone actually shot him. Second is the palm gun. Brown shirt aviator guy seems to make a motion gesture with his hand that people are alleging is a palm gun. Simply put, the cavitation that we see in Charlie's neck is not possible with a slow moving projectile like something coming out of this or any other handgun for that matter. While we're on the topic, let's talk air guns. While there are some air guns that have higher velocities, I still believe it's pretty unlikely he was shot with an air gun. While the slower velocity and larger projectile of the air gun may be a convenient explanation for what people are calling the projectile in these videos, it still lacks the energy on target to create the temporary wound cavity that we see occur in Charlie's neck. There is a theory that the camera behind Charlie Kirk shot him because one of the TPUSA members is seen very quickly after the shot, moving Charlie's chair, standing on it, and removing the camera and removing the SD card. However, it doesn't match the most likely angle of bullet travel. Also, Candace Owens has seen the footage via FaceTime, and I don't think the camera could record and also be a gun at the same time. Next, we have the conversation of hand signals, guys. If there were more people in on this, if his Israeli security squad did take him out, there's absolutely no need for them to do hand signals, guys. With an optic, the shooter would be able to see everything he needs to see. Also, they're speaking through microphones, so the shooter would be able to hear what is going on as well at the event. Now we have this guy in the blue shirt with a gun underneath his left armpit. This guy is part of Charlie's security detail, and he reacts as a professional would, taking a step back and assessing the situation. Next, you have the guy in the white shirt back here by the girl in the white shirt, and apparently you see recoil in his hands, and he's shooting some sort of credit card or phone style gun. The only problem is those guns are extremely inaccurate. He would be shooting blind without actually aligning his sights, and the recoil that is alleged actually happens multiple times before Charlie's actually hit. In both of these theories, whether it be the security detail or the white shirt guy, these shots are not easy to make, and if they were to miss, they would have struck somebody else in the crowd, eliminating the chance for makeup shots even if they were silenced. And once again, these calibers just lack the energy to create the temporary wound cavity we saw in Charlie's neck. Lastly, and this one's been making the rounds most recently, is that Charlie Kirk's microphone is what caused the explosion, either shooting a projectile or the explosion itself causing the exit wound we saw on Charlie's left side of his neck. However, what most people are calling smoke, this little half moon circle above the microphone, is actually just motion blur from his shirt. While this camera angle is one of the more clear ones that we have, the frame rate is still likely too slow to catch the shirt whipping up in that motion, and that leads us into the most likely scenario of how Charlie Kirk was shot, and that is, and I maintain, still from his back right, entering at the bottom of his hairline, striking his spinal column and brainstem before exiting out the front left side of his throat, piercing the skin, leaving a hole or a blood spot on the shirt, and then potentially being seen traveling through his knees. Please allow me to elaborate before we move on to the rest of the story. As you can see from these freeze frames shown, again, nothing graphic, you can see in this frame at the moment of impact, Charlie's neck experiences what we call the temporary wound cavity, where his neck and chest area grow in size by 8 to 12 inches from being impacted by a high velocity rifle round, most likely a 5.56. This extremely violent and fast expansion can be seen when slowed down to 10,000 frames per second on this ballistic gelatin test by Ballistic high speed. You can see the gel balloon out as Charlie's neck and chest does. That violent expansion is what leads to the shirt puffing out in a 360-degree direction around Charlie's head and neck. That expansion is also what sends Charlie's necklace rocketing up towards the left side of his face. And since Since that cross has the most mass out of everything on that necklace, it lingers by his face longer than the rest of the chain, of which has snapped and the right side has escaped his collar, sending it back past his right ear and over his head, as can be seen from multiple different angles. And as you'll notice, the microphone has not gone anywhere, neither has the magnet which attaches it, which completely disproves the possibility of that being an explosive device, and falls to his left despite what people were telling you he falls straight back. At this point in time, this camera angle gives us some insight into the things that his security team were doing, which are very strange. He appears to be starting a recording on his Ray-Ban Meta glasses. There are some strange handoffs happening here, as well as the ground Charlie was carried across has no blood stains on it or drips. Charlie is then loaded in the SUV and rushed off to the hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. It is later revealed from this EMS communication that there was no autopsy performed and the death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital, and that his wife Erica was being flown in to sign the death certificate with the Vice President J.D. Vance. But let's take a step back to the crime scene. As we've already discussed, people are all over it, contaminating it, moving things and taking things that should have been looked through with a fine-tooth comb. Not to mention that just a few hours later, the university had started construction on the exact area where Charlie was sitting, and a whole bunch of other stuff that is either extremely coincidental or proof that we live in a simulation. But please don't pay attention to any of that. Now back to the narrative. He is then caught on camera sprinting across the Losi Center rooftop as everybody is just beginning to duck. Meanwhile, a man who has ties to 9/11 and the Boston Marathon bombing stands up and starts saying, "I shot him, shoot me, shoot me." He is subsequently arrested and they conveniently find CP on his computer, so he will never talk. Then the FBI releases some CCTV footage of somebody running across the rooftop of the Losi Center, but you don't see them laying down or taking the shot or disassembling a rifle or changing their clothes or any of the other things that they allege. Also, there's some really weird stuff going on in this video where you can see that the shadow is there and then it disappears on the white part of the rooftop. What? Then they're also alleging that he is carrying the rifle. You could see some kind of sweater, but it does not appear to be a long gun. Also, pedestrians are just disappearing in the background. There's a lot of weird things going on with this video. Also, there's nobody seen panicking and running from the scene, which is just a few yards away. You can see him there crossing the road, and it was made to seem that he hid the rifle somewhere in some neighborhood that was not very close to the shooting scene. But as you can see, the rifle was just across the street. Why would he hide it so close to the scene of the shooting? Conveniently, the FBI has very high resolution photos of them finding things like zip ties and a carabiner, but they don't have a high resolution photo of the murder weapon itself. But in the photo, we notice immediately the scope is mounted improperly. There's no bipod. Anyways, moving on, don't ask too many questions. He then stops for a quick ice cream at DQ, because who doesn't like a quick blizzard after shooting somebody in the neck? Here's the distance that is from the university. Again, makes total sense. In later discovered text messages, he's allegedly texting his gay lover and roommate during this time. And the messages read like a love letter from the Titanic while simultaneously listing out in gruesome detail every single aspect of the murder, implicating himself multiple times, and admitting to the murder multiple times in writing, creating a digital footprint that can then be used in court conveniently. At which point the FBI had put out photos of the alleged shooter and his parents recognized it to be their son. They asked for photos of the rifle. He would not provide. They asked him to come home, at which point a family friend who was a retired sheriff's deputy convinced Robinson to turn himself in, and now he is seen at his first hearing wearing a suicide smock, and officials are calling him suicidal. What? Although we may never know what actually happened to Charlie Kirk, one thing is very clear. Both political parties are going to use this to push their radical agendas and pin us against each other, left versus right. For it is when we are divided that we fall, and when we are united that we stand. We all must remember it is not left versus right, it is top versus bottom. Please let me know down in the comments what else did I miss. And as always, Christ is King. Stay safe, stay dangerous, range day bro, out.